Hello again, Shell Point. John Hyde, the Academy Manager here, and I am here with Professor Kerr to talk about our continuing series on the history of ancient Rome. This session is session 2 in our series. It's going to be held on Monday, January 13th, once again at 4:30 to 6 p.m. in the Grand Cypress Room. So Professor Kerr, talk to us a little bit more about what's next after the founding of Rome. What's next?
Thank you, John. It's always great to be back at Shell Point. The next talk is about how, as the Republic grows, the internal pressures on this, what is going to become empire, but at this stage it's still a republic, start to grow. And we start to see some interesting parallels to current politics, which is quite interesting.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
you start the beginnings of a populist vote. So in the days of the Republic of Rome, you had the Senate, which were usually wealthy, elderly folk who had a long history of nobility. But then you had the majority of the people who were varying between landowners to soldiers to people who had no land and just worked as serfs. And so as the Republic grew and became more successful and wealthier and needed the Senate to run the country, they didn't always see the point of view of the majority of the people. And SPQR means Senatus Populusque Romanorum. So Rome is a mixture of senators and the people.
Yes.
And we start to see internal strife. The Republic is now big enough to actually start questioning, is this the right way to run the government? And we start to see two representatives growing out of the military who then take political stances. One is pro-Senate, the other is populist. And the populists, of course, need to be protected because the senators have the power and they run the army. So if you have somebody who steps out of line, then the Senate can squash that individual. So the concept of a tribune, somebody who's elected by the people to represent their case in the Senate, comes up. And of course they are worried because if they say the wrong thing, then the Senate will take action. So they're guaranteed not to be harmed for 1 year.
Okay.
And so they have to do their lobbying in that 1 year. And so we see over the next 50 years this huge struggle between who's going to control the Republic. Is it going to be the senators or is it going to be a popular vote? Then we move on to a newcomer in this part 2, where a noble senator, but one without any money, which is disturbing, just pops up. His name is Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar. Okay, I've heard of that one.
Very talented gentleman, and he's adopted by one of the wealthiest men in Rome.
Okay. I remember that a little bit.
In terms of he sees his potential, and he starts to give him positions, lower positions in government, and then finally he gives him an opportunity to pay his debts off by going to be the governor of Spain. And then from then onwards we see Julius Caesar becoming a rising star who's now going to bump into the other two dominant people, which is Pompey, the military leader, and Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome. So the interplay between those three becomes very important.
Lots of intrigue and potential issues there. Tell me, and Spartacus, is this he involved there?
And while all this is going on in Rome, we have a Grecian slave who has been trained on the slopes of Vesuvius, and he doesn't want to die in the arena, so he gets his buddies to break out, and they camp out on Vesuvius. And the local militia think they can mop them up quickly, but the militia is destroyed by Spartacus and his warriors, and this frightens Rome because they detest revolts, either against their tax requirements or worshipping their gods, or particularly just simply civil war. So they send in the heavy mob, and so we find two great legions. These are battle-hardened legions, are now going to take on Spartacus and his miserable bunch of gladiators, and a very tough, bloody war takes place where the whole might of Rome is brought to bear on Spartacus' people. And Spartacus realizes he's never going to win, so he collects all his cash and he goes to the pirates in the southern part of Italy and pays for them, the pirates, to take them away to North Africa, so Rome is not going to challenge them as much. But the pirates pocket the money and disappear, which leaves Spartacus stuck, and of course then the great final battle takes place, and poor old Spartacus is defeated and then crucified on the way to Rome with all his followers. That's the story of Spartacus.
A lot going on there, just in session 2.
Session 2.
Well, hey, just once again, this is going to be held on January 13th, 4:30 to 6 in the Grand Cypress Room. Make sure you sign up to be there.